Greetings, friends, and welcome to Captain Samuel's Sigils. Today's a special day. It's a birthday book haul video. I don't get to do book hauls very often because I live in a rural area that is far, far away from any used bookstores. So most of the time, I have to get them off eBay. The two bookstores that I went to, Otter Creek Books and Monroe Street Books, both in Middlebury, Vermont, had great prices, especially compared to eBay. So I really went to town picking up books, knowing that it would be cheaper if I got them from the used bookstores than ordering off eBay. So this was a really special event. My girlfriend and I have our birthdays around the same time, and we went to this bookstore together and picked up some really great stuff. So I'm going to be going over what I picked up, and I'm going to be looking at them in order from what I would consider the less epic cover art, and as we continue through the book haul, we're going to get to the books that I would consider to have epic cover art. And also, when I watch book haul videos, if I see a book that interests me and the person just moves on, I have to stop and look it up online to see if it's something that I would be interested in. So to save you some trouble, what I'm going to do is I'm going to read the back of each book as we go through. So let's get started. And the first book we've got here is The Blue Hawk by Peter Dickinson. It says, Tron, a novice priest, had spent his entire life in blind obedience to the major priests who served the gods of the sun, moon, and air. On the day of the ritual consecration of the king, however, Tron is Goat Boy, allowed for one day to act on any impulse. And then has an all bold, but who could have imagined? Tron had heard it, the silent command of the air god, and he had to obey. Incredibly, he had stolen the sacred blue hawk and doomed the only ruler he had ever known to death, and had damned himself to eternal exile. But in the wilderness, in an abandoned temple of sinister secrets, Tron slowly trained the extraordinary blue hawk. And with this bird as his sole companion, he embarked on the seemingly inevitable journey toward death. So in an opulent coffin filled with myriad treasures, Tron entered a terrifying unknown land to learn the intrigues of gods, the follies of men, and the soaring magic of freedom and love. Rather a lengthy book blurb on the back, but it sounds interesting to me. Let's see what we got next. So this was covered recently on Ira's channel, Sci-Fi, actually it's SF Worlds of Wonder. Some people consider sci-fi a dirty word, and he uses SF. So over on Ira's channel, he recently read The Martian Chronicles and suggested that I read it, so I picked up a copy of this. This is a classic. It says, in The Martian Chronicles, Ray Bradbury, America's preeminent storyteller, imagines a place of hope, dreams, and metaphor, of crystal pillars and fossil seas, where fine dust settles on the great empty cities of a vanished, devastated civilization. Earthmen conquer Mars and then are conquered by it, lulled by dangerous lies of comfort and familiarity, and enchanted by the lingering glamour of an ancient, mysterious native race. In this classic work of fiction, Bradbury exposes our ambitions, weaknesses, and ignorance in a strange and breathtaking world where man does not belong. So now I've got a copy of this classic that I can read and check out for myself. Now, over at Omnivorous Reader's channel, she generally likes A. Van Vogt, and I do too. When she read this book, she said she wasn't too thrilled with it, and so I got a copy of myself to see what I think of it. And this is Empire of the Atom. A royal mutant powers the universe with a deadly sphere of light. The mutant Klain was banished from the court of Lin. He was a victim of the atom gods, uranium, radium, plutonium, and X, whose god-stuff-powered rockets, whose fire had laid fearsome waste to the old world. But Klain survives, strengthened by the ways of science, art, war, and love, while the Lin Empire crumbles, burdened by war on Venus and barbarian attacks from Jupiter's moon. Fighting intrigue, assassination, and treachery, the child Klain must rule to preserve the Earth. In the century 12,000, no man dares question the atom gods, but Klain will dare to discover their secrets and turn his knowledge into awesome power. Sounds good to me. We'll give it a try and see what I think. Now, this was really cool. I love Philip Jose Farmer, and when I was a teenager, I read a lot of Piers Anthony. As an adult, I'm kind of finding Piers Anthony doesn't hold up quite as well. But check this out. This is Piers Anthony and Philip Jose Farmer co-writing this book called The Caterpillar's Question. And this book blurb is a little bit hard to find. It says, Jack, a struggling art student, is hired to drive a mute, crippled girl across the country. Tappy Concord can barely communicate, but something about her touches Jack, so much so that he follows her into the mountains and through the gateway to another world. There he finds himself surrounded by strange alien creatures and pursued by the relentless agents of the Gal, an all-powerful galactic empire. Only one force in all the cosmos can hope to overcome the tyranny of the Gal. The Imago, an immortal spirit capable of evolving into a being of immense power. The Imago can be anywhere or anyone, maybe even a crippled human girl. Yeah. All right. So, a book by two authors I really enjoy. This should be fun. I read The Dark World by Henry Kuttner and absolutely loved it, and so I loaded up on all of the Kuttner I could find, which was just one book. The Mask of Circe. Jay Seward remembered a former life in a land of magic, gods, and goddesses, a time when he was Jason of Iolcus, sailing in the enchanted ship Argo to steal the golden fleece from the serpent temples of Apollo. But one night the memories became startlingly real as the Argo itself sailed out of spectral mists, and a hauntingly beautiful voice called, Jason, come to me! And suddenly he was on the deck of the Argo, sailing into danger and magic. All right, so we got a little more Henry Kuttner. Now we've got Light a Last Candle by Vincent King. Light a Last Candle is, let's see. Here's a world full of strange creatures, some that are offshoots of mankind and others that seem utterly alien, and some that really are. Here are societies totally primitive, others that live a subterranean life, mods living a happy bucolic existence, and something that dwells in a shining, quivering crystal as large as a city, and still more. Through it all runs a thread of excitement and danger that is capped with an ultimate defiance. Doesn't really tell you much about what it's about. But I guess it's about mutants that are being oppressed by people that aren't mutants. I don't know. Sometimes when you go on book hauls, I feel like so overwhelmed because usually I'll just buy one or two books a month off eBay. And after, a couple hours of looking at books, my brain just kind of fogs out. So, not quite sure why I got this one. Maybe it was just the wacky cover art with this four-armed dude running around with his 70s haircut. So, we'll check it out. We'll see what Light a Last Candle is all about. Here's another classic. Ira over at SF Worlds of Wonder also covered this one on this channel. Dream Snake. They called the healer Snake, and she bore the name proudly, for the medicine she distilled from the venom of the viper she carried with her was a potent cure, and the soothing power of her other companion, the alien Dream Snake, banished fear. But the primitive ignorance of those she served killed her Dream Snake and wrecked her career, for Dream Snakes were dreadfully rare, and Center would not grant her another. Snake's only hope was to find a new Dream Snake, and on her quest she was pursued by two implacable followers, one driven by love, one by fear and need. So this is another classic that's commonly talked about on BookTube that I can now give a try. I hear a lot about Brian Aldiss. Omnivorous Reader especially likes him, and I finally picked up some Brian Aldiss. This is Non-Stop. Curiosity was discouraged in the Green Tribe. Its members lived out their lives in cramped quarters, hacking away at the encroaching jungle called the Ponics. As to where they were, that had long ago been forgotten. But Roy Complain, I just want to say I love a character whose last name is Complain. I'm into this book already. Roy Complain decides to find out, along with the renegade priest, Marapper. They move into unmapped territory where they make a series of discoveries that turn their universe upside down, and they confront a secret kept hidden for 23 generations. Its discovery will reveal their origins and destiny, even as it destroys the world. So now I can finally give some Brian Aldiss a try. Okay, next up we've got some John Wyndham with Rebirth. He's an author I hear talked about on BookTube sometimes. I think he wrote Day of the Triffids, and so now I can give him a try for the first time. This says, they even acted perfectly normal, but David, Storm, and the others knew they were different, knew that being different could cost them their lives. So they didn't tell anyone of their remarkable abilities to communicate telepathically. But in a world trying to rebuild a vanished civilization, a world where even the slightest deviation was considered a terrible and terrifying blasphemy, David and his cohorts were a true and terrible menace. And when their secret finally was exposed, their incredible gift for the future of mankind became the ultimate sentence of death. So I like books about mutants and books about freedom, so we're going to give some John Wyndham a try. Now, when I was a kid, I really liked Lloyd Alexander books, The Chronicles of Prydain, and so this was a youth fantasy book that I picked up just because it looked interesting. This is in the Magic Quest series, Paul Fisher's The Ash Staff. Peston is becoming a wilderness of ice and stone. Dragons and wolfmen ravage the land. With the death of Ron, Mole has become a leader before his time. With his band of fellow orphans, he must destroy the loathsome sorcerer Amar, or the world will be doomed to everlasting winter. So this is the first in the Ash Staff trilogy. And that might have been a little bit of a Freudian slip there, because when I looked up books 2 and 3 to see what they were about, another sorcerer comes back, and then another sorcerer comes back. So it seems like they might be getting a little repetitious, but we'll check that out, see what it's all about. Now we've got The Rainbow Abyss by Barbara Hambly. I really like science fantasy, and this seems to be in that genre. When Rion the banker's son met the master wizard Jaldis, Jaldis said, "Come." Rion came, leaving everything behind to answer the call in his blood. And through long years of drudgery and persecution, he had no regrets, thus he became a wizard. A noble burned out Jaldis' eyes to please some god. Rion made magic glasses so he could see. Together they opened the dark well to the abyss between universes, and a cry for help came from a world that had lost all magic. Could that happen to their world? Though forced to flee again, Jaldis was determined to reach that world through the abyss, to help and to find how the magic was lost. Rion had nightmares over that. Jaldis was blind without magic. Rion could not let him go alone, yet the abyss terrorized Rion. Guided only by a voice without magic, they might land in the wrong world or drift forever in the hell of the void. And how could they ever return? The idea made Rion shudder to the depths of his soul, yet he was sure that someday the nightmare must come true. Some of these book blurbs are kind of long. Let's see what we got next. The Book of Rak the Healer by Zach Hughes. And I guess somebody decided that just a big long text block was too much for the back of books. And so this one breaks it down 1970s style with these bullet points. Keepers, Farseers, Healers, Power Givers. And basically it's about the doomed planet evolved 4 distinct mutations. These telepathic humanoids lived in symbiotic harmony, striving toward a common goal, survival. It was a rigid society based on thousands of years of unquestioning obedience to tradition, until Rak the Healer defied the most ancient of laws in a daring quest for knowledge. This is his story. Sounds pretty good. Okay, and this is a book edited by Lynn Carter. It's The Sorcerer's Ship by Hans Bach. I don't really know who Hans Bach is, but something about this text inside and the cover art gives it an old-timey feel. I have a book of Lord Dunsany's work that was also edited by Lynn Carter in a similar cover art style. So I'm wondering if this is an older author here. Let me check the cover art. I mean the publication. Right. 1942. And then the 1969 edition was with Lynn Carter. It says, if Hans Bach was primarily an artist rather than a... Well, that's about the author. I guess it's just about a dude that wakes up on a sorcerer ship and doesn't know how he got there. And he's got to figure out how to get back and where he is and what's going on. Okay, and then Sci-Fi Finds over on his channel, he loves Robert Silverberg. In fact, I think he should rename his channel the Silverberg Express, and he'll be happy to note that I've got a number of Silverberg titles in this book haul, and this is Gilgamesh the King. And this is a retelling of the Epic of Gilgamesh, which I actually read a number of years ago. And even without a modern retelling, that was a pretty heavy metal story. So I'm looking forward to a modern retelling of that by Robert Silverberg. This should be pretty metal. I'm looking forward to it. So a year ago, I read Jack of Shadows by Roger Zelazny, and I think that book stinks. But Grammaticus Books really loves Roger Zelazny and posts a lot of books about his content. And he encouraged me to give Roger Zelazny another try. And I did with Lord of Light and thought it was pretty good. So I did get some Roger Zelazny on this book haul with Damnation Alley. And it says, in huge, bold, Hell and Damnation. Hell Tanner, the vicious loner, last survivor of the exterminated cycle gangs, condemned to death, with one chance for a dubious reprieve. Damnation Alley, the savage route across a blasted continent teeming with monsters, deadly radiation, and insanely lethal storms. Hell Tanner's passage through Damnation Alley is an epic which gives Roger Zelazny's vigor and talent full play. A dazzling SF novel with a lean, fast narrative drive. So it sounds like a post-apocalyptic Mad Max kind of thing. And then, of course, we got a picture of the boy himself on there, lighting it up and having a smoke, which is a perfect opportunity to let you know that today's video is sponsored by Amber Glow Cigarettes, the official smoke of Roger Zelazny. Please do smoke like all of his characters ever in every single book, and him. Next up, we've got Away and Beyond by A.E. Van Vogt. Now, this book actually set me back a little bit. It wasn't quite as cheap as the other ones. And it is a short story collection of books by A.E. Van Vogt. We've got some more Piers Anthony. This is Hassan. In the days of Sinbad, the handsome young merchant Hassan quests forth from Basra, seeking great wealth. But lo, the hand of Allah sets the youth upon a rarer journey, into the heart of deadly adventure, unearthly peril, and magic. Enslaved by the alchemist Bahram, bound into a camel's corpse, and left on the mountain of clouds to be devoured by a rock, such is but the beginning of Hassan's destiny. He has entered a world of mighty jinns and hideous ifrits, Amazon empires and bejeweled jungle palaces, enigmatic wizards and cloistered virgin princesses. And to know his life's desire, Hassan must twice capture the love of the bird maiden Sana, the world's most beautiful woman, child of the vengeful king of jinns on the dreaded Isles of Wak. The Isles of Wak. Okay, all right. I can get behind that. So far, we've got a protagonist in one book whose last name is Complainer, and now we've got the Isles of Wak. So I guess that's Piers Anthony doing a Middle Eastern thing. Now, this next one is a Robert Silverberg book that I've wanted to try for a really long time. And there's lots of cover art editions available for it. And one of them is not good. And they happen to have the one that was not good. This is Lord Valentine's Castle. But I will say, after I held the book in my hands and didn't just look at a picture on the internet, in the background here, there's this one guy, and I'll post the picture off to the side. There's this one like alien dude whose eyes are bugging out, like he's just tripping out or wigging out or something like that. So this cover art is actually moved up in my estimation a bit, and I'd like to suggest that from now on, this particular rendition of the cover art shall be known as Juggling Balls and Trippin' Balls. Thank you. And come to the magical planet of Madripoor. Follow Valentine as he joins a motley band of jugglers to seek the secret of his lost past across a wide and wondrous world. In the shattered city of the Shapeshifters, in the temple of the Lady of Sleep, and the Isle of the King of Dreams. From the depths of a dying emperor's dark domain to the destiny that awaits him high atop Lord Valentine's castle. So this one is more science fantasy, a genre I really love. Now, Christopher Stasheff also wrote some science fantasy, and his first book is called The Warlock in Spite of Himself. I couldn't find that book, but I did find the first book in a series that I guess chronicles the adventures of the Warlock's son. So this is A Wizard in Mind. It says, if your father is Rod Gallowglass, the wise and wealthy warlock of Gramier, hero of 100 battles and champion of the oppressed throughout the galaxy, you might be forgiven for trying to escape his rather oversized shadow. Perhaps that explains why Rod's son Magnus has run away to rove the spaceways and find adventure. But Magnus, alas, has inherited not only his father's awesome psychic gifts, but his overdeveloped sense of justice as well. So it's not all that long before he's found his own worlds to liberate and earned a price on his head on a dozen planets. So I guess, from just reading about a warlock in spite of himself, it's not only science fantasy, but this guy goes around like trying to convert all these monarchies to democracy. So we'll see what that book's all about. Now we've got some Lester Del Rey. I think this is a nice title. Stalemate. And it says, a young man finds he has extraordinary talents, then he discovers others have them too, though few as powerful as his. And then comes an appalling discovery. He finds that if he cannot master these psi powers, he will certainly go mad. And no one has ever mastered them. Sounds good to me. I love psionic and mutant style books. Next up we've got The Visible Man by Gardner Dozois, I guess is how you say that. And you know, when I was a lad and I'd look at books in the library, you'd look at the back of the book, and they always had a description of what the book was about. But this one has just like a bunch of quotes about how good the book is. This one looks to be a collection of short stories. Visible Man, Flashpoint, Horse of Air, Last Day of July, Machines of Loving Grace, that's a cool title. A Dream at Noonday, A Kingdom by the Sea, The Man Who Waved Hello, The Storm Where No Sun Shines, A Special Kind of Morning, Chains of the Sea. Okay, cool. Got some short stories. And again, whenever I look at a book and I'm like, what's this about? Why did I buy this? It's probably because after a while I'm in the bookstore and I'm just like, oh man, this is too much at once. And I just start chucking stuff in the basket. So, next up we've got some Keith Lammer. Now, Science Fiction Retroactivist on his channel posted a link to a Keith Lammer short story that I read, and I really enjoyed it. And so because of him, I decided to pick up some Keith Lammer, and this is Dinosaur Beach. Appearing from the remote future, Next Central Agent Ravel is in place in America circa 1936. His mission to undo successive tamperings of the time stream which threaten the survival of mankind. He falls in love with a lovely, simple girl, Lisa, but in the midst of his happiness is called away to Dinosaur Beach. It is a Next Central Station located millions of years in the past in the Jurassic Age. But shortly after Ravel's arrival, the station is attacked and destroyed, and Ravel begins a terrifying odyssey through time. So time sounds like a bunch of time travel mix-up. And I like the art on that too. It's got all these like melting clocks on the bottom. And then there's this lady just kind of chilling out over here in blue. Groovy, man. Some Keith Lammer. Okay, now we've got some more Robert Silverberg. This is Night Wings. And this one is actually a short graphic novel. All right. Cool. It says, set in a post-apocalyptic Rome, untold aeons in the far future, this is the story of three survivors, a world-weary watcher, a fearsome scaly-skinned changeling, and a beautiful, delicately winged flyer. We meet these three on the eve of a terrible invasion, an invasion one of them foretold, and one of them secretly led. So that's cool. I've not only got some more Robert Silverberg to try, but I've got a Robert Silverberg graphic novel. Very nice. Colorful. I love it. Okay, see what we got next here. This is... Okay, The Delicon, a novel of the future by H.M. Hoover. Verena is a member of the ruling house. She has worn the Ring of Privilege since the Delicon, her race, invaded Earth from an alien galaxy many years ago. For generations, she has taught the conquered Earthlings the way of the Delicon state. She, more than anyone, has come to understand and appreciate the inferior Earthlings. But even she could not have predicted the terrifying revolution that erupted from the enslaved human spirit. Trapped outside the city walls, Verena and her current students, Alta and Jason, are caught between two warring forces. On one side, they face the humans' lust for upheaval and revenge. On the other side, the deadly laser-bearing drones, defenders of the state. I really enjoyed Jack Vance's The Last Castle, where there's these privileged oppressors, and when the aliens that they subjugate have an uprising, they're all like, huh? Why are they uprising? I thought I liked being oppressed. And this book reminds me of Last Castle in its premise, so that's why I picked up The Delicon by H.M. Hoover. See what that's all about. Okay, now we've got some Alan Dean Foster, The Tar-Aim Krang. And now we're getting into some cover art that I start to like a little bit more. I like this like random pink helmet this person's wearing, the lightning bolts coming out of the side there, and the snake hanging out. Rad title too. The last vestige of the last culture of Tar-Aim, the long-dead planet, was Krang. It magnetized the adventurous, the curious, and the greedy, and killed them all, or turned them into its living dead slaves, until a boy named Flinks and his pet snake stole its awesome power. Then Flinks had to decide what to do with it. The answer astonished him. Flinks, that's another good character name. Alrighty. Maybe he'll take a vacation to the Isles of Wak sometime. Okay, now, Vintage SF on his channel, he talked about these really cool books called Hero's Journey, where it's this set in a post-apocalyptic North America, Canada in particular, and this guy rides around on a psychic moose. And those books were particularly expensive on eBay, but I was able to find something affordable by the same author that wrote that series. And this is Menace Under Marswood by Sterling E. Lanier. For centuries, the human outcasts of Mars lived wild, independent lives in the Martian outback called the Rock. And then the mysterious men of the new clan came to preach total rebellion against the mother planet. And that Earth's UN command could not allow. So it sent a team of its best officers to learn the secrets of the new clan. Unfortunately, to do the job right, the Terrans would have to cooperate with the worst enemies, the Ruckers. So that's cool. I can try some Sterling E. Lanier now at an affordable price. Okay, now we're getting into even better cover art territory. Check this out. This is Redbeard by Michael Resnick. So we got this pasty cakes shirtless dude on the cover there, holding a human head and a sword, and in the background there's all these like wacky mutants holding weapons and stuff like that. Red Will Donahoe, born barbarian into a world stripped of civilization, was a misfit. All around him were the results of the final blow-up that had doomed civilization skulking in the ruins of the city. And Donahoe skulked too, hiding from the struggling normal society on the other side of the Great River. Hiding not only from his own choice, but because he was bound by unseen ties to the man in shadows, Gareth Cole, master of the mutants. Cole watched his barbarian grow from childhood, grow into the fierceness of a manhood that could know no peace until it had tasted the rich taste of blood. And Cole, enigmatic ruler of half a world, wondered if he had made a mistake in allowing Redbeard to live. So again, I really like books with a mutant theme, and I'm just wondering if Master of the Mutants is something that you could put on your resume. Now we've got some L. Ron Hubbard. This is a reprint of The Great Secret, which is the title of one of the short stories in a short story collection by L. Ron Hubbard. Swooping clouds shadow the tawny plain, and far off in the eastern plumes of night spread gently, mournfully, burying the corpse of the Livian day. Fanner Marston, a tattered speck upon a ridge, looked eastward, looked to the glory he sought, and beheld it. And now that I've read that, I realize they're just reading the first paragraph of the book and not really what it's about. But I guess it's about some more science fantasy. Driven by privation with a vicious greed and slavering lust for power, Marston alone of 40 men had survived the perilous trek through a blistering desert to the magical city of Parva, where legend says a secret awaits him which will give him absolute control over the universe. However, Marston finds the key to all power is not what he expected. And check out L. Ron Hubbard here. Check out that picture of this guy. That's a swag level of over 9,000 for sure. So I can try some L. Ron Hubbard for the first time. Okay, so March is Women's History Month, and I wanted to read more women authors from diverse backgrounds for that. And so this is a book I actually got off eBay. This is Zara the Windseeker. And I just want to do a channel shout out to Mar is Reading. She didn't mention this particular book in her video, but she does have a really good video called 5 Black Fantasy Authors that should be made into movies. And I took a lot of inspiration from that. And there's also a book she mentions called Legendborn that I'd like to check out. So just a quick channel shout out to her. Now, this book is about a woman who is born and she has vines in her hair, which marks her as something of an outcast, but also gives her special abilities to survive in the jungle. And that sounds really cool. But unfortunately, I've got some eBay quests to fulfill here because my copy arrived with the last couple pages all glued together with gunk. And then the book, it just ends abruptly, mid-sentence over here. And the final page is like glued to the back panel. So I don't know if I got a misprinted copy or what the heck is going on with that. But yeah, I got to return this copy and then hopefully get another hardcover copy of that because I really like the cover art on this edition. So if anyone knows, does this first edition have a lot of misprints? Why does it just end on page 307 mid-story? I don't know what's going on with that. But if I can't figure it out, I'll just get the softcover edition off Amazon. I think the softcover edition doesn't have art that's quite as epic, but, you know, as long as I can read the story, that's what's important. But I gotta say, I like my books to have cool covers. Okay, and then a little bit more Keith Lammer here. This is Retief's War. And we got this dude that's dressed up as like a crab alien, I guess as a disguise or something. That resourceful Retief is back. It's Retief, the galactic policeman and Earthman, on a visit to the planet of Quopp, where Earthmen must tread quietly or not at all. But Ambassador Longspoon has a plan to unite all of the hostile tribes of Quopp under one government to make them more friendly to Earth. Yet already Retief has learned of another plan, the evil half-human, half-machine Grouchy's plan to destroy the whole scheme, and he must act with incredible speed and cunning if he is to avert impending planetary chaos. Quopp, isn't that a sound effect for when people run in a silly fashion? It's great names. Okay, boys and gals and everyone else, we got some Lynn Carter here. Now, I read The Star Magicians by Lynn Carter as an ace double. I really didn't care for it. But I saw this book and I was like, well, it's the first in a series. I'll give Lynn Carter another chance. And then after I got it home and looked at it more closely, dang, it's not the first book in the series. This is When the Green Star Calls. And it's basically kind of like a John Carter of Mars knockoff about this dude that gets transported to another planet and has all kinds of adventures in the swords and planet genre. And the only way you know that it's the second book is I must venture again to the world of the Green Star. And there's nothing else that says, hey, guy, this is book 2. So, Lynn Carter, bruh. Alright, now we're getting into some really cool covers here, too. This is a robot doing a Lindsey Sterling violin thing. The Metallic Muse by Lord Biggle Jr. And this is a collection of short stories about how the advance of science and technology will impact media. Lord Biggle Jr. has presented 7 fine science fiction stories of what could happen in the world of music and art and television if this goes on. Not only are the stories top-rate reading, but they also present some mind-boggling predictions. Cool. Okay, now we're getting into some cover art that I would consider the best of the best. Not only are they epic, but they're all in cool colors, which I really like. I like a lot of blues and purples, that sort of thing. So this is books 2, 3, and 4 in a series by Piers Anthony. Book 2 is called Chaining the Lady. 10 centuries after the War of Energy, Melody of Mintaka, daughter of Flint the Caveman, assumes the forms of alien and animal, male and female, to bring victory to the people of Cluster against the Andromedan space fleet. Okay, but first she must endure untold humiliation. The mistress of space is enslaved. Yeah, we'll see how that goes. Sometimes Piers Anthony can be pretty cringy in his treatment of women. And then there's the third book. From the distant planet of Amoeba comes word of an awesome invasion, and Harold the Healer, descendant of Flint of Outworld, must abandon his beloved Psyche to those who would burn her for witchcraft, as he seeks to master the riddle of the cosmos, journeying to the ancient ruins on Mars and the galaxy of Pinwheels. Harold the Serpent must crush the foe. Yeah, beautiful cover on that. And they didn't have the first book in the series at the store, but I ordered off eBay. It was pretty cheap. And then the fourth book in the series is 1000 Star. At the edge of the Milky Way, the treacherous space race for the legacy of the ancients begins. A race against time, enemy aliens, and black holes. For outlawed hero Heem of High Falls and beautiful Jessica of Capella, the extraordinary contest is very simple. They can win or they can die. I hope this holds up. I recently purchased Piers Anthony's Split Infinity books in a book club omnibus. Got about halfway through and didn't finish it. Maybe I will. It was pretty boring. But, even if the books aren't amazing, at least they have cool cover art. Now we've got some stuff by Susan Kuhn, an author I've not heard of before. This is Cassidy. Oops, let me do the next book first. Cassidy is the second book. This is Rain. A soft, warm planet, the force of life on that planet, the inhabitants of its luxuriant, sentient paradise. The most powerful man in his universe, Fletcher was lord of them all, lord of the Gonem, the Lankelman, and the slimy Gudra. Soon he would tame the horn snakes, and soon, too, he would take a beautiful bride, one to share with him through all eternity his domination of Ran and its obsidian and marble secret city. Together they would realize the destiny decreed by the controlling consciousness of the Kandoith, a telepathic race living in underground sanctuaries. Together they would sleep a long, long sleep as their lush, loving world passed into chrysalis. But their happiness is cut short by a raider mind probe. From across the stars the raiders come, determined to plunder the secret city. Only one man stands between them, one man and the magical power of rain. So that's the first book. And the second book that I showed on accident first is called Cassidy. Now, I looked these up on my phone when I was in the bookstore, and they had a bunch of other books in the series. And this is a long series. It was like 10 or 12 books or something like that. I didn't load up on all of them just because I was like, sometimes you start a series and you're like, this isn't for me, and then you've got 12 books just sitting there on your bookshelf. But I got the first two to give Susan Kuhn a try. Okay, yeah. Get ready for this next book. This is The Monodyne Catastrophe. And it's got some stereotypical depictions of North American indigenous peoples fighting a UFO. And I like how this one here is shooting his rifle at the UFO. That's great. I love that. So, I wasn't sure what the heck this book was in the store, so I looked it up on my phone. It says, who controls the Monodyne? As long as the president reigned over the Monodyne, the voting public loved him as its kindly benefactor. When the lights went out, there was something ominous about the sudden darkness, something prophetic, and only one man knew the message. So what I discovered on my phone was, I guess there's this technology that everyone relies on called the Monodyne, and the President of the United States controls it. And the indigenous peoples of the North Americas have had enough of the president's crap, so they hijack this technological power and kind of hold the country at ransom until they get their rights. Which sounds cool, but the internet also said that a lot of the depictions of the indigenous peoples were really stereotypical. So, yeah, I'm curious about this book. I wonder what's up with it. You know, maybe it's a little something to offend everyone, I guess. But, you know, sounds like an intriguing premise to me. Give it a chance. And some cool cover art, too. And then we've got Joe Clayton, Diadem from the Stars. That's cool. Beautiful lady with a giant cat. I like cats. Far out among the stars, the masterminds of the Spider People had placed their mightiest mysteries in the scientific device called the Diadem. And when that coronet was stolen, they were prepared to pursue it throughout eternity. The thief crashed among the nomads of Jaydugar, a semi-barbarian world, and the diadem found its way into the hands and onto the skull of the girl Elides. She was herself a strange one, daughter of a sky wanderer, outcast among the people who had raised her out of fear and awe. And the diadem was to prove both her bane and her treasure, for she could not remove it once it had sunk its electronic web into her brain and nervous system, and she did not know how to control the powers that were contained within it. Yet every moment she wore it, she would be a target for the vengeance of the spider race and the avarice of 1,000 worlds. And just to let you know, we're in the top 3 books for cover art now, and this was number 3. Now, for this next one, when my girlfriend saw it, she was like, "You just like books with naked women on the covers." And, there's some truth to that, but not entirely true, as we'll see what my number 1 pick was. But here's number 2. Got this naked lady doing a yoga stance in front of some Death Star looking thing in the background. That's pretty metal. This is the secret to that other book, Diadem from the Stars. It says, the diadem that crowned the head of Elides was in contact with her central nervous system and invisible to outsiders. But even that star-born fugitive herself did not know what the diadem's powers were or what it could do for her. What she did know was that it made her the target of the diadem's unrelenting and non-human owners who had tracked it across space and were still on her trail. She herself had started in search of her own people, but before she could make progress, she would have to conquer both the unyielding mind-slave band she wore and the menace it held for all in contact with her. Okay, so that's the sequel to that book. All right, get ready, get pumped, buckle in. This is the book out of all of this haul that I would consider to have the best cover art. Check this out. This is Rebels of Merca by Augustine Funnel, with a cover art by Kelly Fries or Kelly Frias. I hear it pronounced both ways on the internet. So first of all, it's by Laserbooks, which is a publisher I've not heard of. And that's just got a great and corny name. And I love this cover art. First of all, you've got this balding dude here who's just not having it. He's just not having it. He looks like, he's all out of F's to give. And then you got this dude here with this huge grin on his face, just having a great time, while these goon-looking dudes are coming up behind him, about to whack him over the head. This is it, kids. My favorite cover from all of them. It says, for 2 seasons he lived in the settlement, and for a man like Brandy Jack, it is time to move on. If it weren't for his woman Lotus, he would have been gone long ago. Now the big man must head out for the city to find old friends and new adventures. With his knack for finding trouble, it isn't long before he runs afoul of the law and unexpectedly finds himself in an excellent position to topple the government. All right. I'm into that. So that's it. If you've watched the whole birthday book haul, thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope that you enjoyed getting some ideas for books that you might like to pick out and read for yourself. Thanks. Be well. Have a great day.